Hey you guys, welcome back to Angela, and on this topic we're going to talk about the preacher's kid, the narcissist prized possession, the preacher's kid. So, myself, I grew up being the preacher's kid, and I wanted to share my experience for any of you guys who, found your way to finding the truth in who you are and finding the truth in the world around you. And for those of you who have finally, came to peace or are still going through your journey and maybe feel confused about what just happened to you, and you might think that you're going crazy or something's off, right? And you might even lose your faith when you leave these cults. And when you experience, this type of like mental abuse almost, where these people don't believe they're doing anything wrong with you, but the more you try to explain what it is that is bothering you, the more they start to villainize you as someone who is demonized, someone who's possessed, someone that's going to hell, right? They demonize you and then they make you feel like you're going to hell for not doing whatever they tell you to do. A lot of times when you're a preacher's kid, from my experience, is that even when these people, right, they become self-aware narcissists, or they realize that, they're basically in some type of cult, they won't want to admit to you that they were wrong, that someone brainwashed them. They don't want to admit that there's a lot of places, they'll admit that other places that you go to, people are being brainwashed, but they won't admit that the same things are happening there. And, they'll waste years of your life, not letting you be yourself. So you could be nice to these people and appreciate them for bringing you closer to God one way or another, because God uses sinners as well. But the moment that you try to tell these people about any truth that you've seen or you've witnessed or experienced, they turn away from you. They're scared. So I know, a lot of you probably had, people that wanted you involved in the church and things like that. But when you're a preacher's kid, it's way more different, because there's more responsibility, more people, more eyes are on you, and there's just certain things that are expected of you. And, as empaths, there comes a point in time where you run away and you feel like you have to find out the truth, or you have to find like more of a meaning, more, answers. You're trying to search for the good, the real good, and you'll search and you'll search and you'll start to see that there are patterns everywhere you go. And you try to wake people up, but the more you try to wake them up, the more they won't believe you, believe your dreams, believe anything you say to them at this point. A lot of times these people, they realize what's going on, and they feel like, hey, they feel like they believe in God, and they kind of feel like, hey, this is my blueprint, and you have to, follow along with my blueprint, because this is the only way I know to help you how to survive. So basically it's like, you don't know what's out there, you don't know what's in the real world, but they don't want to help you create your own blueprint. They don't want to work together. It's really, their way or the highway, because they've ruined a lot of marriages, they ruined a lot of lives, and they're not going back so that they can admit the things that they have done to others. And then they get everyone else to demonize you, and now you really are in hell, because all the people you thought were good people, all of a sudden they're not good people anymore, right? So they demonize you and they make you feel awful about yourself, and you start to feel like maybe you did do something to these people, or maybe you feel like there's just too many things that you have encountered to where you have just thrown in the towel and you're like, these people are fake, or these people all preach one thing, but behind closed doors, that's really not what they're doing. That's not really the way they're behaving. And, they make it seem as if, everyone's like this. Everyone has two sides to them, right? So in the Bible, it basically says that, that believers, the people that are going to walk in truth, they're not going to be the people in your household. So you'll try to bring up those scriptures, those things that you see different from how their eyes see it. And they turn away from you. They're profiting from one side, and then they're acting completely fake behind closed doors, because the more they try to make themselves seem like they're perfect, the more they start to have that hate in their eyes, and you'll start to think to yourself, like, I thought, God is love. Like, this isn't love. There's something, completely wrong going here, right? Because even though you might not seem as perfect as everyone else, you know that you're different from them because you're honest, because you don't lie, right? So you start to notice that these people lie a lot. So you're telling them, hey, it's a sin to lie. It's a sin for this. It's a sin for that. Now their eyes are on you. So they go and pretend to be nice, but they act like demons all week, And to people like a preacher's kid, it's like, to them, they demonize us, but deep down inside, we're good, So in my experience, I've told you guys, many times that my grandmother raised me. And she was like heavily involved in the church and the community, really. She was one of those people that she tries to network with people. She tries to be like person to person, right? She wants you to feel like she's your grandmother. She wants you to feel like, like she's your mother. She wants you to feel like she's someone that you can lean on. Someone that is so inspirational and has so much faith, and that doesn't judge others, and, tries their best to live a life in peace, right? Where they don't bother people, and they are very, very helpful people and things like that, that they're very good at giving, right? When it comes to donations and anything to make themselves look good, anything to tell others, what they're doing for their community. So I had memories of her being involved in the church, but it almost seems like when I was like a kid, a baby, I don't have any memories with my mom. So it's when I look back, all my memories started with my grandfather and my grandmother. That's when I started to remember everything. So now, looking back now, I've realized that every single time someone brainwashed me, I would forget bits and pieces of my life before. It's like being paralyzed or something, or being asleep, and then someone gives you something or does something, imprints a memory in your mind, right? They imprint a memory in your mind, and now that's all you remember. That's the memory you have right there. My grandfather was my first love, I guess, where I really loved someone, and I remember the type of love I had for him, the type of attachment that I had to him. And I just remember always, sneaking into the bed late at night just to sleep with my grandpa and my grandmother, and I would climb up the middle, and my grandmother used to get mad. So he was the first person that basically woke me up and made me realize, okay, I'm loved, or I have someone. And what happened was that my mom lived next door, and one day I just never went back home. They just kept me. And I always question that. I don't really want to go, deep into that, but what I will say is that there's no bad blood between me and my mom, my dad, or anything. But I'm not angry with anyone, but what I will say is that once my grandfather died, that's when everything changed for me, because he was the one who really loved me, and my grandmother was the one that was going to work in the end. She was the one working in the end, and my grandfather was like staying at home. So I just remember when my grandfather died, everything changed. All of a sudden, my grandmother was attaching herself to me. So she would tell me little things like, out of all my kids and everyone, I love you the most. So she would tell me she loved me more than anyone, even her own children. She would put that in my head. I remember clear memories of her saying that and me believing it, because that's what I mean with, you know, being a preacher's kid and people brainwashing you, and you're not even, you're a kid, so you don't know what's going on. But it was a form of brainwash, because shortly after that, I remember getting my hair cut. So I've told you guys I've gotten my hair cut. My grandmother cut my hair, and it was something that really affected me. Now looking back, I realized that that was a form of abuse, because that's a memory that I have so deeply, like, rooted in my mind, where I almost feel like if you're watching like the Charlie Chocolate Factory movie, and every time he's like walking through the factory, he has like that snippet where he starts thinking about his dad. Like, so that's like one of those memories where I have like really imprinted in my mind, where she cut my hair. And I think that that was a sign for her of like basically like, me being reborn. I think for her, it was like her trying to control me, her cutting something, making me feel as if I was nothing, so that she can start all over from the start, right? Because all of a sudden he dies and she's focused on me, because she's hurting, she's going through things. I can't understand what she's going through. But I remember she couldn't sleep by herself. Everywhere she went, she took me with her. All of a sudden, she's taking me to church all the time. Like, we're going all the time. She always preached, but it was never like full time, because I remember she would work. But when my grandfather died, she wasn't working anymore. She was retired. She's old. And now we're going to church all the time. Every time I went to church, I felt everyone's eyes on me. Like, I felt people staring at me all the time. Like, I felt it, and then I didn't know I was different at the time, right? I'm a kid. I don't really know about, race, culture. I don't know anything about that. So I know people were looking at me weird. And, like I said, my grandma, she taught me how to write after that. She would open the Bible, the Catholic Bible. She would make me write chapters of the Bible in different languages. Then she would make me speak different languages. Then, she would make me pray in different languages. And then she would make me go preach with her. She would involve me in the church, put me in different youth programs. I was the person, carrying the cross. And I was a little kid carrying the cross, right along with the priest. Just being, a walking robot, just being puppeted by everyone. Looking back now, I feel like those scholarships that I got, just as much attention as she got, I feel like the people working there were getting that same attention too, because all eyes were on me. It's like, who's that little kid up there? And she looks different. Like, how is she this smart? And I remember my grandmother telling them, like, kids only know what you teach them. She would keep saying that. So now looking back, I realized I realized that it wasn't me being delusional, basically. And, this is why I believe that when you're like a preacher's kid and you don't get to really be yourself or do normal things, and, even though you have those parents that are like super religious on the weekend, but they're not really religious on the weekday, it's like, it's different. So you guys, that are listening, that have been through it, where your parents are working overtime during the weekday, and, your whole life is being dedicated to something, and maybe even one day they don't go to church anymore, and you feel like you wasted a lot of things in your life, because you gave yourself to these people. So what I would say as a preacher's kid is that you you learn like how relationships work until you really leave the cult. Like even if you have friendships, not until you leave this type of cult you'll see what relationships are really about. You might even, like me, get caught up with a narcissist because now you're like, oh, I'm finally free. I'm finally able to get love. And like, I'm getting it back. Like, I feel the love. And you feel like like you just met your soulmate or something. And the narcissist, they know what's going on with you. It's like a fairy tale movie and they're looking at you like someone's been hiding you, huh? So they're happy to have someone like that doesn't understand what's going on. When a preacher's kid basically wanders off away from everything that they know, what happens is that you get older, people don't look at you the same way. You're not that kid anymore that your grandmother, like in my case, would take me around and people would be amazed because I was a little kid preaching. So people don't look at you like that, and you come back and people are pissed at you. They're mad at you. You took shine away from them because they had to explain where you've been. A lot of times when you're a preacher's kid and you do drift off and you're telling your story to other people, other masses, other cults, other friends, they'll start to invite you to like places that they go to, or places where they go where they're brainwashed, or you'll just go to, you'll start hanging around the wrong people that are just like, they don't really believe in God, or no one really taught them about God, and end up, getting into trouble, and your life changes drastically. A lot of times people are cursing you, like people, strangers. And I used to think to myself, like, I wonder what people think of me now. Like, I wonder if they think about me or if they still talk about me. And of course, they still ask these, if they'll still ask these preachers, they'll still ask people about you because they're wondering what happened to you. They had you so well trained. What happened? I believe that the pressure that we feel as preachers' kids, sometimes even keeps us from forgiving people or just living our life regardless of what people say. Sometimes we have guilt, or we wish we could have done things differently. And a lot of times, the people that raised us feel the same way too. These people feel the same way too. Like, why did you have to break the spell? Because they had to answer questions they didn't want to keep answering either. And they won't admit it, but they'll ask to see how you're doing. They'll keep their eyes on you from afar. I think what hurts the most about being a preacher's kid is that everyone basically crucifies you, and then you're trying to like show or tell people, hey, like, you guys are sacrificing me. And they'll just act like you're Judas. They're looking at you like you're Judas. So you just come to a point where you're just like, I just have to separate myself. I have to keep moving forward, just like Jesus did, because there's just no going back. Because even if I did, they look at you like you're someone foreign, and you're thinking to yourself, what about all those people I brought to church with you? What about that youth group? Or what about, how I made you look good? How about the popularity you were gaining from me? You'll start thinking about everything you did to please these people. Like, where did it ever, when are you appreciated? But when it comes to these narcissist people, they look at it like, hey, I taught you how to speak different languages. I taught you how to write. I taught you how. So they think they believe that the things that they instilled in you, working hard, those type of things, having respect with people, mannerism, they think all those things are basically like, hey, it was an even exchange. So you're just trying to basically live with the reality that everything is an exchange, you know? And a lot of times, you're seeking that love you got when you were a kid, and you were, preaching, and you were right along on their side, and you looked up to these people. So as long as you were looking up to them, they cared about you. You were the perfect duet. It was almost like we were doing a performance. She would hand me the rosary. She would look at me. She would tell me to start. I would start and I would recite every single word, fast, loud, proud, the way she told me to the end. And at the end of the rosary, at the end where they have a couple of more dots where it leads to the cross, there's like extra prayers, right? And she would be the one to finish it off. So at the end, it was like a performance. And then she would, give everyone hot chocolate and bread. And it was just always people coming to the house, visiting her, asking for advice, celebrating her, bringing her gifts. It was just a lot of things that I did. And I didn't realize till like later on in life that I was used. As a preacher's kid, you get used to, be involved in the youth groups and help other kids and do a whole bunch of stuff. You get used for a lot of stuff. You have to do everything you're told. Anytime you want to do something fun for yourself, you get rejected from doing anything you ever want. A lot of times when you like something, you have to hide it because it's like they're going to take it away from you because they want your mind to be focused on just what they want you to focus on. It's like total control. It's like total slavery. I've had, doors taken away. I've had my shoes and my clothes being taken away. All I could wear was like my private school outfits and, just a lot of different events where it's like this person didn't want me to experience any joy in life. And I realized, when my grandmother got her that certification from the Pope and stuff, I realized, later on, I was like, why is she so popular, right? Because there's a lot of people involved in the church, but why is she so popular? What made her so different? Because she's very ignorant. And I realized, I said, it was me. Because as soon as she became popular, as soon as she got her certification, as soon as she had all of these followers coming to the house, all of these people giving her gifts. As soon as, she started feeling better. My grandpa had been gone for years now at this point, for years. The time had passed by, and for years the time had passed by, and I realized that she wasn't hurting about my grandfather at all. She wasn't lonely anymore. She felt like she could be by herself now. And I also realized that I was getting older. And the older I got, the smarter I started to get. I started to come into my own, body, basically. And I started to realize that it was things that I liked. Like my mom would come over and she would give me a CD player with CDs, and I would start listening to music, and I started to be inspired. And when she started seeing that, she was getting mad. She was upset that I even had a CD player. I'm basically, doing everything, and, everything is just never enough for these people. And the moment you don't do things for them, what she started to do was she started to lie on me. So when she would lie on me, I would call her a hypocrite. Then she would go and tell other people that I called her a hypocrite. Then other people started gaining up on me, and by then, I'm older, she's already has this great popularity of followers who think, she's an angel. And I won't say that I didn't learn anything, because I did get something out of it. But in the end, all she did was look at me and say, well, you're not my daughter, you're my granddaughter, you're not my kid. But during those times when she was brainwashing me, she would say, I don't love anyone but you, and I just, didn't want to do the things I once used to do. That's when she started to make up lies about me. She started to say that I did things that I never did to her. She started to fall on the floor and say that I pushed her. She would start lying on me. And it hurt me so much because I had such anger because I couldn't understand why she would lie on me. Then to top it off, she didn't speak to me and I didn't speak to her for a couple of years, 2 years. And, next thing I know, she gets me a car, right? She gets me I already had a car, but she gets me a luxurious car. And I realized, I didn't realize at the time, but I ended up going back, right? And even though I had lost my faith in the Catholic religion, all I wanted was my grandmother back. So I was willing to be fake just so that I could be back in her presence. But when I went back, basically, it didn't matter what I did. She didn't look at me the same anymore. I wasn't a little kid anymore. I wasn't that little kid that was giving her attention anymore. And she didn't see any use for me. So bad things started happening. And then I got into a really, really bad car wreck where my car was totally smashed in and I ended up getting hurt. And even when I got hurt, she never even cared. And you would think your mother, right, would care if you get in a car wreck and you're messed up. She didn't care. So what I started noticing was that when other people went through the similar situation, people would be giving. People would be like, hey, borrow this car until you get your car fixed. But when it was me, it was they were looking for any reason to gaslight me. So you'll start comparing yourself to other people and you'll feel depleted because you feel hey, I've done everything right. And the moment I want to be myself, it's, a problem. Whatever happens to you from here on out, you deserve, and on top of that, I told you she held on to my hair that she cut. I guess for a reminder of what she did to me, a reminder of our time together, a way to control, a way to do voodoo on me or something. She used me those couple of years when I was younger. Then she's back with her mom, but she's not telling people she doesn't talk to me. She's not telling people that she calls my mother just to ask her, how is she doing? But she's not asking to speak to me. So that's when I started to realize something happened to me, but I couldn't figure out what happened to me, right? I couldn't figure it out. In my early adulthood, I started to really reflect on what had happened, and I realized that I had got used, because if someone loves you, they love you. But that was just them. They were putting on a show. And I realized every time I went somewhere, I almost felt like I was in a circus and I was performing. That's really how I felt. And one day I got fired from the performing and never performed again, right? So as I'm going through narcissist abuse with this narcissist that I was with, because I felt hey, my family, people don't love me, I ended up with this narcissist. And I'm thinking, after all the heartbreak, right? I'm thinking to myself, what about God? Where is God in all of this? I do feel like God has looked out for me because he's pulled me out of crazy situations. But I would think to myself, when are these people going to get their karma for using me? When? The karma didn't come to them until I woke up, fully woke up. Not when I was just angry, upset. When I finally understood that they pimped me as a preacher's kid. They pimped me. So I realized then that a lot of these churches, they use people, they force people to get married with each other. They know people are going to want to get with the opposite sex, and that's even better for them, because as long as you keep coming, as long as they can make you feel that's good, you guys are getting married, you guys aren't living in sin anymore. They have all these people have an agenda, And when I finally realized that, that's when I was like, oh, okay, that's why they're getting their karma now, because I'm fully aware of what they were doing. And now it doesn't matter if they apologize or what they say, because they did what they did. And I would think to myself, right? I would think to myself, I wonder if all the people that I preached to when I was younger, I wonder if they remember me. I was thinking to myself, I wonder if all those people that would gather around, staring at me and asking me questions and asking my grandmother questions about me. And I wonder if they remember me, like if they remember how much faith I had in God when I was preaching. Because I literally, when I was younger, I would cry and I would think to myself, like, I prayed for people and I really cared for them. And my grandmother programmed me to care for these people. But in the end, I don't have anyone, right? So I was going through that stage at a young age where you're just like confused and you're trying to figure life out. And I would think to myself, like, I bet those people don't even remember me anymore because, I'm grown now. Like, I'm not a little girl anymore. So I would feel like ashamed because I'm dealing with this narcissist, feeling like crap. And I'm thinking about my old life where it felt, like I was being, like I was helping people basically. And, I just thought to myself, I can't believe my grandmother has people on rotation, people in high places, all these people that respect her, all these people that look at her as a saint, and she's dogging me out after everything I've done for her. Even though she felt like she did a lot for me, I did a lot for her. Like, I gave her fame, right? I gave her clout. As a preacher's kid, you're like, if you do everything for this person, they're going to look out for you. No, it doesn't work like that. Like, you'll do everything for them. And then the moment you're ready to do your own thing, whatever it is that you're into, they come and try to destroy it. She knew what my reaction would be, and this is why she had people lined up at her defense ready to crucify me before I even got the chance to even express myself. They were already persecuting me, and I'm wondering why people are gang stalking me, why random people are literally trying to get information out of me. They're calling my college, they're asking questions about my school, they're asking questions about my classes, and I'm an adult at this point. So these are the type of people that won't leave you alone, but then they don't want to help you. So they don't want to help you. And even if you try to go back to the church, the moment you leave just one time because you're trying to, certain things don't add up to you and you start going to other churches or you get invited somewhere and you're just studying. The moment they see that you're studying or you're getting smarter than them or you're having your own mind, that's when everything starts to change. And there's people that are around these narcissists that went through the same thing that you went through and they failed, right? So the reason she told me that she loved me more than her kids was because she was expecting me to be better than all of her children. She was going to give me all the knowledge, all the game she got from everyone and put it in me. And it backfired on her. And because of it, all the other people, all the other watchers, they're jumping up now like, see, Mom, it's not as easy as I told you. You tried with her from scratch and it still didn't work out. And now they're pretending to be holy. Now all of a sudden they're going to church. They're getting involved. I'm literally watching people that were literally not wanting to go to church while me and my grandmother went to church, and we were out there like it was a circus performing. It was just me and her. And to the point where when she got old and she couldn't even walk, I was the one that was holding her. Then it got to the point where I was pushing her wheelchair. So it's like, to me, it's very hypocritical, like how the same people, the same flying monkeys that weren't good enough in the end, they try to crucify you all because they want to make themselves look good, because they feel like, okay, my time is now, but your time already passed and you're messing with me. And you need to stay in your own lane. You're in a competition with the wrong person. And you'll be mad at the flying monkeys. You'll be mad at everyone. You'll be more mad at the flying monkeys because part of being a preacher's kid is that the person that raised you, the person that brought you into that type of environment, they're like almost like your master. So you'll sit there and fight with everyone. It's like fighting with the narcissist new supply. But when you should really be mad at the narcissist, because they're sitting there on their throne acting like they're not doing anything, because they're playing that role like they're good people. And what I also realized was that eventually, when I realized what was going on completely and they started to get their karma, I believe that when my grandmother started getting her karma in a way that she started to realize that everything she ever believed in was a lie. I feel like she always knew it was a lie. I feel like she came to a point in time where she realized it was a lie, but she felt like she was being protected by everyone, all her flying monkeys and the people that believed her. And I just believe that the time, especially the times that we're living in, people aren't falling for that type of brainwash anymore. There's some people that are still falling for the brainwash, but a lot of people are not staying in that brainwash for too long. You get me? So back in the day, before all this technology, if you were to go to one of these churches and they brainwashed you and told you this is the real church of God, right? You're not knowing the pastors, the people that are sitting with you. They're all connected. There's people who are friends that are pretending like they're not friends. There's people that are married that are acting like they're not married. You're not knowing it's a whole business in here and you're believing it, right? And what happens a lot is that you don't know if you're dealing with good people with good intentions or you're dealing with bad people until they start to try to force things on you. They're forcing things on you. They're making you feel guilty, or they're trying to get too involved into your life to the point where they're breaking your family apart. In the old times, it was easier to do that to someone and that person would stay brainwashed their entire life. In these times we're living in, you might stay brainwashed for like 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10 years, but you're going to wake up. A lot of these narcissists that are self-aware, that are preachers, and they know what's going on, and they don't care about ruining your life, trying to force you to believe in something that they don't even truly believe in. They're just trying to make sure that you do whatever they say because they feel like, hey, it's better to let me control you because at least I'm someone who is a good person. It's better to be controlled by someone that's surrounded by real good people, because a lot of their followers are good people who are searching for the truth, So that's what's confusing them, because now there's narcissists in the midst of everything. And then there's empaths around there that are not self-aware. So when you are not obeying this person as a preacher's kid, when you're not obeying them, they're telling the empaths and the narcissists that are self-aware and the narcissists that are not self-aware, they're telling all of these people that there's something wrong with you. So when I started to realize, that although these people try to be perfect, I realized that I'm not even angry anymore, because now I have faith in the real God, right? Now I have faith in the real God. Now I'm blessed, right? What I realized when I was with this narcissist was that God was real, because I had this question lingering in my mind for so long. Do these people remember what I did? Or I would think to myself, like, because I brought a lot of people to the church because of this, because of me out there preaching, and I was a kid, along with my grandmother. So one day I'm at the Narcissist house. We're going to get breakfast, and I remember he was already in the car, turning the car on, and when I was coming out and walking to the car, there's a lady across the street, and the lady goes, she calls my name, and I look up, and I look at her, and something told me that's one of the people from the church, right? And I'm thinking like, no, it's not. And then she starts speaking to me in another language, and she's like, is so-and-so your grandmother? And I'm like, oh, snap. It is someone from church, and I haven't went to that church since I was a kid, I'm over here like living a whole nother life. Like I'm not even that, because sometimes you think back about your old life, like where, sometimes you just like literally think like, wow, like you start feeling like your life was supposed to be completely different. And, you look back and you're like, I wonder what happened to certain people, and sometimes you get so caught up in your new life that you don't think about people from the past, and then you still bump into them, right? So I'm thinking, wow, God is, answering what I asked. Literally, because I asked myself this many times. I'm like, she's getting all this clout from me. Every time there's people in and out of her house all day long, people praising her. She just thinks she's the smartest person. People coming to her, talking about their problems and their marriages. And she's sitting there just listening to you, ready to gossip when you leave. To the people that she trusts, the people in her little cult that know her secret language, So, the narcissist is in the car. This lady's like, is that your grandmother? Da, da, da. I'm like, I told her, only speak English. I said something like, I only speak English. Only English, I said. I literally said, only English. And, she looked at me like, girl, you're lying. You're like, I know you don't just speak English. You're full of it. That's you. I know it's you. You're lying. I wonder why you're lying, but why are you lying about who you are? Like, why are you lying? I know you're her granddaughter, like I could tell, I could tell she had that look on her face like I was lying. And I got in the car and the narcissist was like, how do you know my neighbor? And I'm like, that's my grandmother's friend, follower, whatever. And he was like, dang, that's kind of creepy. And I'm like, isn't it? Like, that is scary. Like, that is spooky, really, because it's like all these people from my past, they always reappear, even if it's like 10 years later. And I was like, yeah, that's creepy, because that's something that I guess I was mad at God in a way. I'm going to just be honest. I was mad at God in a way because I felt like, why are all these bad things happening to me? And I was like, why, God? Like, what about me preaching? How could I just preach and make people feel good and just get discarded like nothing, And she's sitting up there with a whole bunch of people around her. And I'm here alone, and she's lying to these people, acting like, oh, like I'm over here, like me and her are on good terms or something, like just lying, knowing she used me. And I would think to myself, how could God allow something like that? How could God allow that? But then I started to realize, like, God wanted me to know him, the real him, away from these people that were trying to brainwash me. So I got something out of it, but I have faith, But it was, I didn't need God to tell me. I was mad, and then I got over it, and then I felt like God was blessing me in other ways. And then I realized like God is real because he's blessing me. I don't need anyone. I don't need my family. I'm blessed. So now I feel blessed, and I'm like not even searching for answers, right? And next thing you know, I'm not searching for this answer anymore. It's something I always thought about, but something I stopped thinking about. It was something that I thought about only when I was hurting at that moment. So at this point, I'm not really hurt about these people anymore. And next thing you know, this lady comes out of nowhere and asks me if I was the little girl that used to preach. And I was like, no, because I was just so ashamed of who I was at that moment when I was with the narcissist compared to who I was in the beginning, right? So, denied it because I was angry. I was like, I don't have a grandmother. Like, I don't know her. She doesn't care about me. So, yeah, and the fact that my grandmother called me Mary Magdalene, and I told her, I said, you guys are sacrificing me like Jesus. Can't you see everything we've studied, everything you taught me? It's happening to me. And she did not care, you guys. She called me Mary Magdalene. So when that lady came and she remembered me, even though I'm an adult now, I realized that I did have an impact on people, and that impact is something that is a memory that's instilled in all of these people's minds, meaning that that energy that I produce, it never died, meaning that God wanted me to have a closer understanding to him so that I can come back and make this video for anyone who is a preacher's kid and who feels like they've been used, they've been abused, they were made fun of, their reality was denied, their feelings don't matter, and they never, and these people try to destroy you on top of that, going against everything they preach and they say they live by, but they're doing it to you, so I hope that my story was helpful for anyone who was, involved, like heavily involved the way I was, or you were just involved with someone who, maybe your parents are like, church fanatics or something. So, if you have parents that are just like go to church every Sunday, or someone who, or your dad is a pastor, you have people in the ministries and people in high places or people that know people, and you feel like you've dedicated all your life, your childhood, and in the end, these people, you come to your 20s or you turn 20, now they're like, we don't need you no more. We were just using you during your adolescence so that you can invite other people and their children and their families. It was just an image, a facade. It wasn't really love. I didn't really love you for who you are, regardless of what you go through. I don't support you. I don't support what you do. But they wanted you to support them, and they wanted to get clout and get praise and get rewarded for using you. And they don't feel like they used you. They feel like they taught you something. They feel like, oh, I taught you something, But everything that you were supposed to teach me was about love, right? So why don't you love me? Why aren't you showing me that love? Why are you talking to me like this? So I hope that this video was helpful for your healing. This is something, I know it's going to take time if this is something that just happened to you. And, I just believe that if you're going through this, it's not happening for no reason. Everything literally, you have to take the good and the bad out of everything. Because when you finally find out who you are, you're going to be, you're not even going to really be upset. You're going to, be thankful for the experience, for the journey, for, every lesson, for the different levels that you went through. It's just painful because they sacrifice you. That's the hardest part. It's realizing these people sacrificed you. And like realizing you have to reinvent yourself. I'm at the point where I don't believe in coincidences, and I don't believe that any of you guys listening to this, should believe that everything is all the way bad and that you're just getting bad luck. It's just that, God's been trying to reach you for a long time. That's all it is. God knows your heart, and God wants you to know the real God, not the fake God. So, you can't worry about those people. You have to keep moving forward. Everything from me, being raised by this person, my grandfather dying, every little thing that I went through, and I went through many more things that it's too long to tell, but this is really the rough draft that you need to keep moving forward. Me having my prayers answered through strangers. These people are nowhere near me, and I'm bumping into these people, getting my answers heard, through God. The narcissist I was with that treated me really bad, he was connected to people from my childhood that, treated me bad because of my innocence, people that took advantage of my kindness. He was connected to those people later on. The devil will send you, new partners, new people in your life, and then you won't be so quick to just jump in, and allow someone to control you anymore. So when you don't allow people to control you, you'll start to see that certain people are connected to other people that have wronged you, and you realize why you have to take your time trying to figure out if the people around you are with God or are they with the devil. Like, are they choosing to listen to the voice of God, or are they choosing to listen to the voice of the devil? And most people don't want to listen to the voice of God. Even when God tells you something, you question what God is saying, right? So I questioned, God at one point, and then I finally forgave, myself, and asked God for forgiveness for me questioning my path. And boom, here comes this lady out of nowhere. Are you so-and-so's granddaughter? I'm looking like she hasn't seen me since I was a kid. How does she know what I look like now as an adult? But I mean, I guess I still have the same face, but you just assume that your good deeds are not being your good deeds are just not being acknowledged, and sometimes, even after you learn this information, you'll have days where you still feel like your good deeds or your words are not being acknowledged, but deep down inside that the more you try to plant seeds in others, even if they turn that love into hate, eventually they'll realize that drop some knowledge on them. They'll, your energy cannot be terminated. Your energy is forever. Your energy is always overflowing. So I'm sending you guys lots of love, peace, light. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and I'll talk to you guys on the next podcast.